All right, everybody, back from my favorite podcast, or Your Story podcast, with what I think is going to be maybe one of my favorite podcasts, Matt Ficarra of FFL Squadron, who is just got an amazing story. I've heard snippets of it, but I'm really excited, Matt, to get you on a podcast like this where we are able to get to the nitty-gritty of all stories and get through the crevices of all stories and learn about people in a way in, 20 to 25 minutes that might take us years to learn if in just a normal relationship because of the way that this podcast is set up. So I'm very excited to hear your story. But first off, I want to welcome you to the podcast. How you doing, my brother?
I'm doing great, man. Blessed, grateful to be here. Thank you for having me. So excited to be here.
Well, definitely happy to have you. Excited to have you at FFL. Excited to have you as part of our team and to do the things that you're doing right now. But as we go down the path of your story, there's significant things that have impacted you and made you the man you are today. If you could walk us down that path and that journey, man, we'd be so appreciative.
For sure, for sure. So as it sits right now, I'm 39 years old. Just turned 39. Blows my mind. I don't
Happy
feel
birthday.
that old, but thank you. Born and raised in Syracuse, New York, May 4th, 1984. For all you Star Wars fans, yes, May the 4th be with me and you. I'm not a big Star Wars guy, but I hear it all the time. But yeah, born and raised in Syracuse, New York. Father Frank Ficarra, mother Raven. My father was he was a plumber by trade. Started in the union back, I believe, in the '60s. He was an apprentice, worked his way all the way up from being an apprentice, all the way up to being the business manager of his union, responsible for hundreds of people. So, that blue collar work ethic background, started there. My mother was always a self-employed hairdresser, entrepreneur. So I got the entrepreneurial spirit from my mother, got that, hard work and work ethic from both of them. Had a pretty good childhood growing up. Parents were very present, was in tons of sports, very competitive growing up. Typical childhood, mother and father were there until my early teen years, when they actually started kind of growing apart. They split up when I was about 14. So I'm a child of a split family. Mom went out on her own when I was about 14. My father met his current wife when I was 15. Actually spent a lot of time with her, which left me around 15, 16, living in their house pretty much by myself the majority of the time. So, as any other typical sophomore in high school without much parental supervision, I started getting into quite a bit of trouble, skipping school and hanging out with all the older kids, and just getting in trouble, just nothing serious, just stupid kid stuff. And somehow I ended up graduating high school. And after I graduated high school, I really wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to get into the Marines. I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Some things happened. I couldn't get into the Marines right away, so I ended up going to community college. Tried out for the lacrosse team there. Made the team. Ended up playing a couple years of college lacrosse there. Got recruited to go to Boston. I went to University of Massachusetts, Boston. I played a year there, lacrosse, and then it just became too expensive, so I left there. Went to a state school in New York, SUNY Oswego, played another year of lacrosse there. So a four-year collegiate athlete. Has always been very, very competitive by nature. Loved college, had a great time, ended up getting a degree in communications. Graduated from college in 2008. Still was undecided what I wanted to do. Communications degree is very broad. So I moved down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where my mother was living, and I decided to kind of be beach bum slash golf bum slash bartender for the next 6 months. Wasn't wasn't ready to grow up yet. So moved to the beach, and I was golfing and bartending and just doing whatever in my early 20s. And a lot of my friends that were bartending and serving at the time were in their 30s and 40s, and they said, Matt, you got a college degree, man. You got to use that. You got to grow up and do something, do something real. Because the next thing you know, you're going to wake up and be a 40-year-old bartender with no retirement, nothing to show for it. And I listened to their advice, and I moved back to Syracuse, New York, started looking for jobs. Got a call from an insurance company. It was a Medicare supplement company. I did that for a couple months, was doing pretty well, and found out that they weren't paying like they said they were going to, and I really didn't feel comfortable with what I was doing, so I left. Actually swore off the insurance business altogether, said I wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do cold calling anymore. And then I got a call from my former company. And I took the call, and the only thing that really attracted me was they said there's no cold calling and that they were a union company. Okay. My father was a union business manager, was the head of the union. I grew up, all I heard was union, 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 right? So I said, all right, I'll give it a shot. I went in for the interview. I got hired, and that was my second stint in the insurance business. And I worked really, really hard in the beginning. There was, a learning curve, and I experienced some success early on. I worked really hard.
How old were you at this time?
I was 25 when I started there. So 25 years old, single guy living in an apartment, just working hard to perfect the craft. And over the next couple of years, I got a few promotions. I recruited one of my best friends at the time. He was graduating college. I recruited him, trained him, managed him, built a team of between 10 and 15 people over the next couple of years. So I started with them April of 2009. Worked really hard over those next 2 years, building a pretty good team, pretty consistent team of people. And July 30th of 2011, my life changed forever.
Wow.
It was a Saturday morning. Woke up, went out to the field. This was when everything was in person. Helped a couple families, enrolled a few families into their benefits, union members, filled out a couple claims for some people. And then I decided to go out to my friend's camp on Oneida Lake in Syracuse, New York. Went out on the lake, hung out for a couple hours, was swimming, hanging out, having fun with friends. And right before we went to leave, I climbed to the front of the boat, stepped over the railing, and went to jump off the boat. My feet were right on the edge of the boat. The boat was wet, a little slippery, a little bit of waves going. And instead of jumping and landing on my feet, I slipped and went head first into about 3 feet of water. As soon as my head hit the bottom of the lake, I heard a crunch. Kind of had that, that moment where you see stars. Next thing you know, I'm stuck underwater looking up at the sun. Couldn't move anything. Couldn't move my arms, couldn't move my legs. Was pretty much paralyzed at that point. So as I'm floating underwater, looking up at the sun, immediately you start feeling that panic, right? Stuck underwater. What am I going to do? I'm panicking. And then I came to the realization that there was nothing I could do. I couldn't even splash for help, couldn't do anything. And I got real peaceful and calm. And I said to myself, okay, this is it. God take me. I pretty much surrendered.
Wow.
Got very, very, very peaceful. Like, panic is gone. Peaceful. Like, okay, this is it. Like, just take me. Right before I got down to that point where I was about to breathe water in, somebody grabbed me under the arms and scooped me up and brought me above water.
Wow.
So I gasped for air, and I'm 100% conscious this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Gasped for air. Next thing you know, they put me on some sort of floating device, boogie board, or whatever it was, and I'm laying there floating. Right. Next thing you know, I just hear more and more people surrounding, circling me. Matt, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you with me? Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Was in a lot of pain. My neck hurt a lot because I had broken my neck. I shattered, 3 or 4 vertebrae. I was in a ton of pain. And people kept saying, can you feel this? Can you feel this? They're poking me, they're prodding me. And I really couldn't feel anything, right?
Wow.
They just kept saying, don't move your head, don't move your neck. Next thing you know, I kind of just shifted my neck a little bit and the pain went away immediately. So couldn't feel anything, wasn't in pain anymore, but I was completely conscious, just floating there. Fast forward, they put me on a floating stretcher, sheriff boat to shore, ambulance to the helicopter to the hospital. Next thing you know, I open my eyes after surgery and the doctor says, I'm sorry, I got bad news, you're paralyzed.
Mm.
I immediately was like, okay, for how long?
Huh. Right.
for how long? Like
Great question.
a couple days, couple weeks, like, what's the deal? Like, it felt like a bad dream. And now that I'm telling the story, it's like literally coming back to me. I'm like kind of sick to my stomach telling it, but
Right.
I literally was like, for how long? He's like, I'm sorry, man. And the way that it looks right now, it looks permanent. Like, I was like, permanent meaning what? Like,
Right.
what do you,
Correct.
I was in disbelief. And said probably for life, man. He goes, I'm sorry, but you'll never, like, just very, very bluntly, you're never going to walk again. Your level of injury, chances are you probably won't be able to take care of yourself. You won't be independent. You're going to have to either live with parents or family members or in a nursing home. Literally just blunt, just the bluntest, the worst bedside manner you could ever have in the world. No hope at all. Just you're screwed, right? And me being the stubborn Taurus that I am, I used an expletive and I said, you, doc, you don't know who I am. You don't know me. You don't know, you don't know, my personality. And I didn't take that as a black and white answer, so from that point, a couple days later, after the shock wore off, I just tried to start figuring out a plan and what I could do to, just nip this in the bud and start working hard and figuring out what I could do. And I remember being in the hospital and one of my friends, Katie Pollock, had a friend that she knew that got paralyzed. And he went to this rehab hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. And he came back walking with a walker.
Wow.
So at that point, I didn't know the ins and outs and the specifics of paralysis and the fact that, you can work as hard as you possibly can. But if your injury is a certain way, like, you ain't just walking, you know what I'm saying? You don't just come back. So either way, my first goal was to walk and get my life back and everything. And my passion at that time had been the insurance company I was working for and building a team and developing a team and being successful. And when I was in my 20s, I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted to make 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about the money. Fast forward 12 years later, it ain't about the money anymore. We'll get into that, but the injury changed me, man. It made me a way better person. But I started doing some research where I should go to have the best chance at recovery. And I flew to Atlanta, Georgia by myself. My family and friends said, listen, if you decide to go there, it's going to be very difficult to be there, to visit you. There's a place in Jersey, there's a place in New York, there's a place in Boston you can go to. but that we can visit on weekends. We can come and see you. And me being the stubborn person I am, I said, no, I'm going to Atlanta. I'll fly there by myself. I don't care how long it takes. I'm gonna be there by myself. I'm gonna work myself, and I'm gonna get back what I lost. Flew to Atlanta. First week, first couple weeks, I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm crying every night. I'm just devastated. Why me? Why me? Why me? And then I met a good friend of mine, Chris, and it's hard for me to talk about this because I love him, like a brother that I never had, but he got hurt the same way as me. He fell off a boat, broke his neck. He's hurt a little bit higher on his neck, and he can't even shrug his shoulders or move his arms or his hands or anything. And, in that rehab hospital, I met a lot of people that were hurt a lot worse than me.
Wow.
So immediately from that point on, 12 years later, I haven't had a bad day. I might have bad moments. I might have moments of this sucks, but I have not had a bad day in almost 12 years since I started realizing that I was very lucky for what I had, not unlucky for what I lost. So I try to live every day now with an attitude of gratitude because we all have so many things to be thankful for.
Amen.
That if you just focus on what you lost or what you had or the negative situation that you're in, it's not going to do any good for you or anybody else, So that, was life changing, just seeing, how bad things can get, and the attitude that Chris had and the attitude that all these other people had that, got dealt a worse hand, like just really inspired me to live a different type of lifestyle. And, I was there for about 4.5 months. I busted my ass. I was up at 6 in the morning, working hard until 8, 9 o'clock at night. And, this injury and being in this position changed me, man. I've always been the type of guy that sometimes is, picks things up naturally good at different things,
Yeah.
but never works as hard as I should, has never reached my potential because things came easy. So I could get away with giving less than the effort needed to get by,
Right.
but not this time, not this time. I had to give it everything I had to even be able to feed myself, to dress myself, to bathe myself. I still am. I'm paralyzed. I can't move from the mid chest level down. I have feeling everywhere, but learning how to get dressed without the movement of your lower body. My hands still don't work like they should, but I have upper body. So I had to learn how to pick up a fork and a spoon and a toothbrush and feed myself. And it really, really humbled me in life to realize that you do have to work really hard sometimes to get what you want.
Wow.
And I just wanted my freedom back. I wanted my independence back. And I worked almost, 12, 13 hours a day for about 5 months to get back. So I got there around August 10th, August, September, October, got back just before Thanksgiving. And unfortunately, the house that I just bought 2 months before my accident had 17 steps to get into it. So I clearly couldn't get back in there because I'm wheelchair bound, right? So I had to stay at my dad's house. And I literally had bought my first 2-family house 2 months before I got hurt. My goal has always been to create a passive income stream, rental portfolio. From reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my life. And I was devastated, man. I was like, not working, I'm not making money. I had a team under me, but thank God I had the living benefits that my company provided because I was getting paid a certain dollar amount every day I was in the hospital for 4 months. So instead of losing my nice car that I had, my 2-family house that I just bought, instead of losing that, I had a chunk of money in the bank So I applied for another loan and got my second house that was wheelchair accessible. Rented out both sides of the first house, used some of that excess rent to pay the mortgage on the second house, and pretty much got my life back within 6 months of being home.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I relearned how to drive using hand controls. Went back into the office. Was Man, I worked so hard, and my biggest goal was to get back to work and continue that path that I was on, and get more promotions and get to the point where it was just managing a team. Managing a team, getting out of the field and growing and getting to where I needed to be. And eventually, when I got to driving and I was healthy enough to get back into the office and everything, I went back into the office. It's very difficult to talk about, but this is how it went down. Um, had a meeting in a conference room with the owner of the agency and a whole bunch of the upline and everything. And I was expecting to get my promotion that I was due for, right? I had a team, a lot of people were still there. And instead of getting that team, had a conversation, and not only did I not get my promotion or keep my team, but my team was actually taken from me and given to the person that I had trained and developed and had known for about 10 years at that point. And I was told that I couldn't do this anymore. It was an in-home presentation back then. And the fact that I can't physically get into houses meant that I can't do this anymore. And I remember being in tears in a room with 10 other people, but what about if I meet here? What about if I go to Dunkin' Donuts? What about if I go to McDonald's? Sorry, Matt, it's not happening. We don't want complaints to PR and everything else. I was devastated. Absolutely devastated. I was offered a position doing recruiting from home, coming to the office a couple days a week, whatever. But instead of making a couple $100,000, $500,000, whatever you were going to, we're going to pay you 30 grand to do some recruiting from home. Okay. What? Are you serious? I just busted my ass to get back here, and this is what's happening. But it is what it is, man. That's what happened. And instead of giving up and saying, woe is me, this sucks, like I'm gonna go somewhere else, I took that position and I got really good at it. I became a recruiter. I helped my friend build his team, build his agency, became one of the top recruiters in the company, and basically helped build his business for the next 7, 8, 9 years. So yeah, that's how that went down. I think in about 2016, my friend was the top manager in the entire company, and I was his only recruiter. And I just kept chirping in his ear. I'm like, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. We got to go to a different state. Like, I'm not even allowed to write business, let alone be a manager. I'm like, we got to go. We got to go. We need to start our own deal. He called me and said, hey, I just got offered a new state. Let's do this. Let's move to Boston. Let's move to central Massachusetts. So I went. I packed up my stuff. I left my home. My boy was my home health aide, helping me clean the house and all that stuff, take care of the dog, help me with everything. And I left to Boston, pretty much moved by myself at that point. And that's when I really became 100% independent, because I didn't have anybody to help me with stuff. So moved to Massachusetts, continued building that business for the next couple of years, and was working myself like a dog, 13, 15, 16 hours, building someone else's business again. It was for myself, but really not. And after a couple of years, I just I was working so many hours that, I was getting sick, and I took a step back, and I got out of leadership, and I started becoming a personal producer. And, at that point, it was still in person. It was before COVID. Mark, I would literally drive up to people's houses with a fold up table and chairs in the back of my van with my briefcase, and I would call them and say, "Hey, I'm outside. I'm in a wheelchair. Can you meet me outside?"
Huh.
2019, I was the #1 producer for the agency in my wheelchair with a table and chairs. Just no excuses, man. Like,
I love it.
circumstances are circumstances. You can
Yeah.
either be a victim or a victor. And I've never been a victim in my life. And I work hard, man, and I still have not reached my potential, but I'm on my way right now. Um, I was there. I was with that company for almost 14 years. And it's June 8th, 2023. I decided to leave that company, I'd say probably 2 or 3 months ago, for a few different reasons. One, the first reason was there's a lot of people in the paralysis community that were reaching out to me because they know what I do in life insurance and protecting people. They wanted to be covered. They've reached out to me, hey, I need life insurance. I want to protect my family. And with the company I was with, that wasn't an option. Only having one company and a couple products couldn't help people that, that I care about, people with disabilities and things like that. So, I decided to make the switch, but I do want to back up because I missed a pretty big part of it. When COVID happened in 2020, the life insurance business and a lot of other businesses, it changed to virtual 100%. Okay. I didn't need to physically be in a certain place to do business anymore. I'm from upstate New York. I don't know how familiar you are, but it snows a lot there. It's cold. It sucks.
Oh yeah.
Right? And I realized that, man, if I can do my job, if I can help families and help people over Zoom and be somewhere else, what am I doing in New York and Massachusetts? And I love to travel. I've missed a lot of vacations. I've missed a lot of bachelor parties and things because there aren't wheelchair accessible Airbnbs. So I decided that my goal was that I was going to move somewhere warm where I could still do my career. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm always finding ways to create businesses. I've developed a real estate portfolio in the years that we've been talking about. And I decided to sell one of my properties and trade up and buy a duplex in Southwest Florida. I decided that I wanted to create a wheelchair accessible vacation business with Airbnbs, boat charters, whatever I would want personally to have fun, right?
Wow.
So I found a place in Southwest Florida in Cape Coral. I bought it sight unseen, never even been to Cape Coral, Florida in my life. I literally went on Zillow and just circled the coasts of Florida on both sides, and I was looking for duplexes. I wanted to find somewhere where I could live on one side, have some passive income on the other side, and do it, on the water. So I found a place in Cape Coral, found an agent, did a couple of video walkthroughs, bought this place, hired a contractor, made it fully wheelchair accessible, packed up my stuff, packed up my dog that you can probably hear barking in the background right now.
Right.
And moved to Florida.
Dude, your story is that of courage. I mean, serious courage. Almost legendary. It's probably legendary if I took a step out of it and just looked at you, the man. It's got to be legendary for you because you're walking in it. But the courage, but the courage and the commitment and the aggression to making your life what you want it to be and not being bound or not letting calamity take you out, not letting the mental thought of death to take you out. I'm sure that thing has crept on your forehead many a nights, and you've punched it in the face and fought for what you have and the mindset that you have, that you've not had a bad day, because you got to see you're more blessed than you think you are, and you have a lot of things to be grateful for. And it challenges me, and probably anybody who has a lot to be grateful for. It's pretty simple to, especially these days, to have a pity party and to go, woe is me, and to look at everyone else and see what they have that you don't have. It's a pretty simple thing to do, but it's harder to take inventory of your own gratitude, of what you need to have to be grateful for, and actually be grateful for it. So that was a very impactful story, and I really hope that people get, you're an inspiration, man. Like I told you before, you should have the biggest team in the world. I mean, who wouldn't want to work with you, bro? Who doesn't want to be inspired by what you do and how you look at life? There's no excuses. You're just a walking winner mentally. I take that back. You're just
bro. If you can't make fun of yourself, you can't do anything.
But I'm not saying that to be facetious. I'm trying to find real winning adjectives to describe you, and just and to let you know how much I appreciate your story. At the end of the day, nobody has excuses if they work with you. There's no excuses, which is going to inspire people to do more. So I commend you on your story. I commend you on fighting through. I commend you on continuing to inspire people. You're doing it, bro, and you're positive about it. You're a complete inspiration, my man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that. Most days when I wake up, I'm just great. I'm grateful, man. I know how bad it could have been. I couldn't be, I almost died. I might not be here anymore.
That's crazy.
Someone didn't save me. If I was hurt worse, I wouldn't have the opportunity I have every day. So I feel like it's my obligation to live life to the fullest, to have a positive attitude, to work as hard as I can, to be the best man that I can every day, in and out, because I know that some of those people that were dealt the worst hand would, if they could. So it's my obligation to do the best I can every day, directly or indirectly, for those people.
Your Story Podcast with Matt Ficarra. Thank you for sharing, buddy. One for the ages. And I'm thrilled at where you're at and the way you treat life, but I'm really excited about what's coming, because you ain't seen nothing yet, man. We're just getting ready to unlock the juices that the world has for you, brother. So thank you for jumping on with us for your Story Podcast. I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for sharing unbelievable stuff. Please listen to this one multiple times, everybody. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Matt. God bless.